Charge Bolts is just as good as we all doubted it could be. If you've ever looked at the Sork skill tree, I'm sure you're the same as me, where you've seen the lightning skills and thought, I wish I could make these work. Well, now we can, and Charge Bolts specifically is just amazing and satisfying. So let's get straight into it. It plays the same as any Spark build you've seen in Path of Exile. It clears everything, everywhere, all at once, and at the same time, everything is stunned, and if something isn't, they'll be dealing almost no damage to us. I've tried out a few variations like the CC spamming Frostburn with Ice Brace, but you just don't need these. The stun you naturally get from the Convulsions passive is more than enough from what it feels like. Now this is all only made possible because of the interaction between the new aspect of Piercing Static and the enhanced Charged Bolts perk, because the Nova from this perk can activate on every enemy that meets the conditions for it, per cast. And what it looks like is a ripple of electric Nova explosions that deal awesome damage to trash mobs and supplement its single target DPS as well. As soon as you start playing around with this interaction, you'll understand just how amazing it really is. Now, the clear speed is one of the fastest in the game, but the single target is just a little complicated. It's important to note that Charge Bolts does shotgun, meaning every bolt spawned from the skill can hit the same target without limits. This is integral to understanding how to make it do high single target DPS with its unique Staff of Lamb Essen. With this equipped, it makes a certain amount of cast of Charge Bolts circle back around after passing through a boss for the first time to hit them again for a second time in most cases. And what this totals out to be is 10 hits from one cast of the skill when this happens. And when you're standing there spamming the skill with Flame Shield or Ice Armor to protect you, it does a lot of work for a skill that specializes in clear speed. When you look at the build guide, I'm sure you'll be wondering about these few things, like why are we using Chain Lightning enchantment if it's a Charge Bolts build, and why the hell are we using Firebolt enchantment? Here's why. We have a lot of mana problems with this build, so we'll do whatever we can to fix this, because that's really the toughest part of this build to solve. So we take Chain Lightning enchantment because when it procs, it still applies its aspect, which will give us mana every time it bounces. At the same time, Chain Lightning is the skill that makes the most amount of crackling energy in the game, and couple this fact with the Invigorating Conduit passive, and we're well on our way to solving all of our mana issues. Other enchantments don't really offer more single target DPS either, so Chain Lightning helps speed up our boss time to kill too. We take Firebolt enchantment because of all the burning damage synergies available to Sork. We'll grab the Fiery Surge passive, Devouring Blaze passive, and later on the damage reduction from burning enemies in the Paragon board, as well as increased damage to burning enemies with certain nodes and the Flame Feeder glyph. And a cool little interaction is that because everything is burning, enemies are defined as taking damage over time, which helps boost up our Anticipation Vampiric power, which will make our Unstable Currents ultimate pretty nuts. Here we see we're about to do Uber Duriel, as we've already showcased killing other bosses before this, and we did a whole Legion event by ourselves easily. It was very breezy. So as you can see, trying to move around Duriel and grabbing crackling energies on the floor to fill up our mana when we don't proc a lot of our primary resource gain on Lucky Hit, which when we do, you can watch the mana bar, it goes up and down like a crazy amount. It's kind of awesome to play around with. But you see, it does good single target damage. It's not a meta skill by any means for bossing, however, as an all-around skill, it really does feel amazing to play with. And the Charge Bolts themselves do get destroyed on environment collision, so you do want to stand next to environment and shoot out away from it into open space as much as possible. Or if you're in a narrow corridor while you're doing a dungeon or something like that, then just stand in the middle of the corridor and shoot straight, and it functions pretty well. You'll get the hang of it as you notice these like intricacies of it, like whatever. Here we show off the not so good gear that we have. Now this amulet, of course, you see it's a really good amulet for Sork. However, it doesn't have an aspect that affects this build on it whatsoever. Everything that you've seen so far, we're actually missing out on at least 50% multiplicative damage. And that's even further exacerbated by what we're about to see, which is our Paragon board glyph levels. Now we do have a level 15, we have a level 18, and we have a level 19, but when you look at the next two glyphs, we have a level 9 Flame Feeder we don't even have the bonus from it yet. And we have a level 1 charged. We have a lot of damage yet to get in this build. And there's a couple problems with the build that I didn't bother solving because I was using kind of generic Sork gear. But if you tailor this build exactly as you wanted it to be and solved all the problems that you think need to be solved with it, it can do a lot more than what you just saw. If you thought what you just saw was amazing, it's not min-maxed at all. Like, I just threw on generally good gear and then went at it, and I was just tearing. So I don't know what else to say. There is a build guide in the description below. That's going to be it from me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the build, please let me know. I love to read what you guys have to say. Thank you, and stay safe.